Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire, while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
Welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today's guest, if you ever wanted to do everything in the world, this would be the guy that you want to go to. He has worked at NASA. He is actually, believe he is still in the U.S. Navy. He has an amazing business called Athlete Foundry. Just let's get into the conversation because it's so exciting. KC Chhipwadia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Rob, it's my honor always, particularly for fellow vets and, of course, the other piece that you nicely mentioned, the other things that I've done in my life, being a medic and a firefighter, and we're cut from the same cloth, brother. So thank you for this opportunity.
I love the amount of things that you've done. I mean, as a kid, did you go, you know what? I want to try everything.
I did, and I'll tell you why if I can. So, I'll tell you one and the other story if you're open to it.
Definitely
led to it. One is the whys because I was always told that I couldn't, and I grew up in a modest, low-income family area in the San Francisco Bay Area. We made do, and opportunity was tough to come by, and every time I tried something, I was that kid in the corner that they said no one had any visions of, and said, right. What am I going to turn out to be? And so everywhere I turned, I was always given that sort of stink eye of, you're not good enough, you can't do this, and why are you doing it? So I just, that story, the phrase of, all right, you tell me I can't do something, get out of my way, I'm going to do it.
And better than you could.
And better than you could. And so that was sort of that's in my DNA today still. I guess I'm still growing up, it's turned 51 here a couple of weeks ago. So, but I tell people, don't hate me because I'm beautiful. But
perfect.
I tell you the one story that is, for me, humbling, why, particularly like in the case of firefighter and medic, which I still am a certified medic. I left my volunteer times for now, at least, back when we moved to Austin from Houston 6 years ago. But when I was 8 years old, coming home from, lived in this area called the Tenderloin, the San Francisco area, and it still isn't the safest place to be. I made it out somehow, from gangs and prostitutes and all kinds of things right here, right literally outside my door.
Right.
And so next to my apartment place, no joke, was an adult store, and great place to raise kids.
Oh, right? No kidding. Jeez.
Yeah. So and the doors at 24/7, they're open every day. That's just how they are. And, one night I went out to the local store right in the corner with my friend to grab a cup of I don't know, it was ice cream or candy or something. And we noticed that the door was closed for the first time, which is extremely odd. And we thought, it's never been closed. What's going on? Just out of curiosity. We're kids, we're 8. We'll come back from the corner store, and there's a gentleman who was the worker there on the floor, sitting outside the door with his hand on his heart, and he had just been stabbed.
Oh my God.
And so blood was profusely coming out, and I could, vividly still see it today. It was steam coming out of his heart. His hand, it was gushing, and he was begging for help. Well, here I am, an 8-year-old. I'm the only guy here, frozen for about a couple seconds, realizing, what the hell do I do?
Right.
And I back in the days, and you might remember this, and of course this, is big cities still had those little fire alarm call boxes on the corners.
Right.
And so we had one on the corner. I ran to it, tiny little glass to break. And guess what? You can't break the damn glass. It's so small and thick. I couldn't break it. I just couldn't break it. So and again, not, kind of an odd story, but I had to request the assistance of a prostitute.
That is so crazy.
And because she saw me
and
I couldn't break it. And I said, the man is dying over there. And I don't know what I said. I was 8 years old. And she took her heel off, broke the glass, and it was too late, of course, by then. And I still remember to this day, that experience. What that reinforced for me is I never ever want to be helpless.
Yeah.
So that's that story. So anyways, thanks for letting me start with that.
That is crazy story. And that's the end of the podcast. No, that's crazy. But that shapes your future. That shapes how you proceeded with your life, right?
Everything. Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing. And now you've went through so many iterations of what you've done. I want to get into your time at NASA at the Johnson Space Center. You spent 20 years there as a human space flight engineer. Now that sounds like the coolest job I've ever heard of. I mean, I would love to just have that anywhere on my resume. Tell me more about what that means from a standpoint of like a job.
Yeah, it absolutely, for me, that was in my heart. Since I was 6 years old, I wanted to be an astronaut. And that was the and every kid, whether one day you want to be a firefighter, next day you want to be an astronaut, it changes as a kid, and we know that. But for me, I'm got 3 brain cells because I need a tiebreaker, and I knew that I'm a hard-headed person. So when I make my mind, I'm committed. Get out of my way. I'm going to go for it. And so I committed at 6. I said, that's it. Everything I do is going to be towards that aspirational goal. And I got really darn close. Made it into the short list in the class of 2012. But on the path, I thought, well, human spaceflight is in my heart and in my DNA. It still is. So how do I get there and get closer and do the things that I'm so excited about? And there's quite the journey to get there, which was full of struggles and challenges to finally get to Johnson Space Center, and happy to share that piece as well. But once I got there, what does that mean for 20 years? I've supported over 50 space shuttle missions, including the honor of what I call the unfortunate honor of being part of the Space Shuttle Columbia accident investigation team when we lost the entire crew in 2000. In 2003, when we lost the entire crew coming over Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, and it just fundamentally shaped more of who I am and being part of that experience. And my particular background, where I kind of focused, was life support systems and emergency escape, emergency systems. So, kind of interesting with my firefighter background, but it's really about astronaut survival and rescue within the capsule, outside the capsule, on the launch pad, coming home. How do they get out of this environment if they need to, evac quickly, whether it's jumping out into the open ocean, and water survival, to land survival, to leaving a spacecraft that's catching on fire on the launch pad. All those things was sort of my latter half of my career, and the first half was really about what's called life support systems within the spacecraft. So oxygen, carbon dioxide, wastewater, pee, poop. I was honored to be the manager program, the manager for the world's most complicated toilet.
Now that's not on your resume. I did not see that.
Yeah, that comes after we break bread. So that is it was an interesting story. I'd co-opt at NASA, interned for multiple semesters from undergrad to graduate. So one semester work, one semester back at school, back and forth kind of thing. And during that time, all my time had been spent on working the spacesuit. There's 2 spacesuits that NASA has. The orange one that we may see, that's called a pumpkin suit that they wear on launch inside the spacecraft, and then there's the one they wear like doing the space walks outside, the white one. So I worked a lot all on the on the spacewalking suit, which was incredibly rewarding and complex, and tremendous system. So I had worked on that. That was my thing and my jam, and I finally got the full-time job at NASA, which is another story of its own. And finally got the full-time job, and my boss comes in and says, Casey, we're excited to have you finally. I know it's been tough struggle. We kind of got you here. I know you worked on the spacesuits all your years, but I need help in this one area. And I promise it's just temporary. I'll bring you back to the spacesuit. And I said, all right, no problem, boss. It was the toilet. And
it was the toilet.
And, famous last words. I'm still waiting for the boss to bring me back, but it never happened. But it was an absolute honor. I can tell you that, to work with that team and that system for 4 years, to be, incredibly intricately understanding of every detail of that system. And quite frankly, I've learned about the human physiology more than any other people on the earth want to know.
I can imagine.
About, how you defecate and pee and poop, and the volume and the consistency and all that fun stuff. Great dinner conversations, by the way.
I was going to say, you have to feel proud that you are number one and number two.
That's right. That's right. So
they can never take that away from you.
No, it was
on
awesome.
Earth and in space.
It was awesome. Yeah. I tell you, if you go on travel today with your family, we're it's a first world problem, right? Which is
right.
Travel, road trips. What do we generally think about? Where am I going to go?
Stops and where am I going to go?
Right?
Yeah.
And when I do stop, generally, like my bride, she's very picky. So right. So imagine that camping trip, but in space. And now, if you got a problem, you can't go anywhere.
Right.
Add on top of that. It's
not great to float back at you.
No, and guess what? That's a true hazard for health. And when you have only two pilots, right. One redundant, semi-redundant, if you will, that's an end of mission and life or death kind of system. If the potty goes down, we got a big problem. It's no joke.
That's crazy. You don't even think of that. I mean, you don't think of that. You're like, okay, the thrusters, the boosters, the rotational jets, all those things. And then you're like, you don't realize the little things. And that's such a huge aspect when you talk about that, is like when you said that you were on there when the Challenger,
the Columbia.
Was it Columbia? It was Columbia. That was right. Okay. I was reading wrong. With the Columbia, and you did the investigation. Now, right. What kind of mindset do you have to really get into to be able to kind of go into that environment and try to figure that out? Because it is tragic, and I mean, especially with you working closely with NASA and everything, it had to hit home.
Oh, absolutely, it did, and there's it was a national tragedy. It was such a national tragedy. Of course, the actual formal commission and investigation team is appointed by the president. That's how big it is.
Wow.
And then, so, there's the larger team that was headed by a retired Navy admiral that appointed by the president to investigate. And then within that team, there was a small, very small focus team that's investigated and really focused on the crew and the cockpit, and that was the team I was on. To reconstruct.
That's even tougher.
It was incredibly challenging, because you really are there tasked to understand how the crew, what actions they took. Did their training play a factor? Because we wanted to learn from this. It was a non-survivable scenario. That doesn't mean that we didn't feel guilty that our system didn't work. I had literally 6 months prior just took over the leadership of the emergency system. And it still weighs on me I know it wasn't survivable, but to think that the whole point of my system was to help save them, and it didn't. And so trying to really unpack moment by moment, microsecond by microsecond, creating a very detailed timeline of series of events, sequence of events, that what actions did they or did not take? Can we, by investigating every piece that we could find, understand what they may have done, and therefore how they then eventually passed away. We needed to understand that whole process. So knowing how they died and how we honor that was ultimately our focus, so that the next generation, the next time, we can apply those lessons. And we owe it to them as an honor to them and their family to understand that, you know what, they did take actions. Their training did play a factor. Yes, we can, right. we did. Our telemetry in the data corroborated that they were able to take evasive maneuvers within their ability, and unfortunately, certainly, it just wasn't enough.
I can't even imagine from that standpoint, but to be able to be that, wow, that's to me, that's amazing. And you don't think about those aspects. A lot of people who, watch those accidents happen and don't understand. And I think this is a great life lesson of, there has to be an understanding of not the failures, but what happened to not be successful in that venture, to be able to be successful in the future. And that's even an extreme circumstance, what you had to do. How did you continue to push forward with that, the positivity to say, hey, we're going to change this. We're going to make this better.
Yeah. It really involves those around you. Everyone had to, and it was tough for everyone. There were some that were incredibly challenged to move forward because it was just so tough on them, and it just eventually those around you, everyone was focused. It's that like in that moment, right. For that moment, and for me, that our moment was 6 months long, 6 to 9 months long of investigation, a lot of traveling, and putting the pieces together. It's removing the emotional aspect temporarily, sort of like, you and I can certainly attest to that, of various bad EMT calls, firefighter, whatever that case is. You got to remove that emotion piece and get after the business of simply the mechanics, and let the emotions come in, after the incident's done, right. Then take that moment to decompress, etc. So that's what we had to do, is for the 6 months, is not think about what they went through, but be focused on what we're doing and the why. And there will be a time, whether it's weeks after, months, years today, and still people are recovering, I would say, emotionally. It just eventually, one day it'll hit you.
Right.
I don't know, there comes and goes, there's moments of that, but I'm still reminded of how important what our work was, because if we right. didn't do any of that, quite frankly, and we believe this, and that's what makes our nation also so unique from any other, is that we do believe in spending resources, money, time, energy, right. to understand those things that, quite frankly, no other nation does as much as we do in that aspect.
And they're, it's almost like other people are scared to see what didn't go right.
Right. That's right.
Whereas we're more confident in the fact that, hey, it's all right that something maybe didn't go right, but we can make it better next time. And I think, that leads perfectly into your military service in the Navy. I mean, you've had a long career in the Navy. You're still in the Navy, correct?
I am.
That's amazing. I love that. Tell me more about your naval career of, what that, I mean, you had your time at NASA and your naval career. What did that mean to you? How did that shape you to even get to where you're at right now?
Let's see. How many hours do we have?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. It's one of those things you look at all of the experiences that you've had, and it's so great to have people like you that tell the stories of how to be able to be better, because like I was telling you, like my son, he wants to go into the military, and it's one of those things where it's like he can hear these stories and be like, yeah, I can do this.
Absolutely. And back to where we started the conversation, Rob, is the naysayers, hey, you can't do this, and right. It's not for you. And here I am, of course, and blessed initially to get commissioned. There's many paths that you can join the services, and the path that I chose was directly in the reserves initially. So that's how I got commissioned into the reserve side. And so really 24 now, 23 and some change years of both active and reserve combined.
Wow.
Multiple short sea tours. So by trade, I'm a surface warfare officer, so ship driver. But we're also one of those categories of officers that's sort of a jack of all trades. So we get moved around, often, whether, admin job or training job or operations, there's a little bit of everything. And so as I've had the fortune to be moved around and seen different aspects of the Navy, not just the ship side, but intelligence and satellite stuff and base operations, been deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan. And in Iraq, I was the deputy director for the POW and MIA division, looking for all of our missing in Iraq. And that deployment fundamentally rewired my head. It changed my life to the day.
For the better?
Of who I am. For the better. It's always for the better. I view that as post-traumatic growth, PTSD.
Oh, I like yes.
Because there's the alternative. We have a choice. I can go down the other path, or I can go down the growth path. And I chose the growth path along with my family, who I truly believe that the hardest material on Earth is not natural, diamond, platinum, titanium. Right. It's a military bride. It's the spouse who really is just tough as nails. They have to be, given the deployments and the uncertainty of their spouse coming back scenario. And so the Iraq deployment, looking for our missing, really fundamentally changed who I am. And in fact, I would argue that was the beginnings of the path that put me on to get to Athlete Foundry and start Athlete Foundry, and kind of helped me realize my deeper why beyond that life passion to be an astronaut. I had to go beyond that, quite frankly. And one would think, well, that's like the end goal, right? And
what's beyond space?
What's beyond that, right? What I realized in my second deployment in Afghanistan, which was with Naval Special Warfare and the SEAL teams, which was also fundamentally life-changing in itself, is halfway through that deployment, I got this email of a lifetime, which would have been a phone call in the States, and that was that I made it to the final round of 120 out of 6,500 applicants to get interviewed to be part of that class of 2012.
Right.
Easier said than done. I'm in combat zone, and so I was grateful. I sound like, hey, boss, I'll be back in a week. Doesn't work that way. I can't leave war.
No, you can't take time off. Yeah, I'm going to catch the first flight out of Kabul.
Yeah, I know. So I had amazing bosses who were so supportive. They found, made a way to make it happen through planes, trains, and automobiles. Finally got to Houston, back. Journey of a lifetime, a chapter of a book, no doubt. But what I realized when I got to the interview, and it's great humans, I have friends that are astronauts still, but I'd done tremendous research for decades, and so I knew the process. And so when I got to the interview process, I realized, first chance to get a peek behind the curtain, sort of the peek behind the Wizard of Oz, and see the Oz, and realize, wow, that's a pretty short guy behind the curtain, and realizing the process hadn't changed in 5 decades. And so good people mean well, but it's an HR process on steroids. So if you don't, any company, organization, right, that doesn't evolve with society, HR wise, will become irrelevant. You have to evolve in the HR world, and within a year, within 6 months, 50 years, 5 decades. Right? You don't evolve. The only place you can get away with it is the government. So they crazy. Do.
Right.
And so it's full of, in my humble opinion, I was disappointed. Full of inequities, irrelevance. It's outdated, antiquated process. And I did make it. Of course, I wouldn't be talking to you probably. But I did make it, but I learned from that, and I had to channel my frustration and anger of what I just discovered to help solve something bigger in society. And my three dots that I had to connect to get me to Athlete Foundry kind of started with that. Is my one first dot is I've since I could remember, I was always a passion to help kids, to help them achieve something bigger in life, put them on that path. So, and through diversity and inclusion, letting them see, people need to see people that look like them to say, hey, if that guy or gal can do it, by golly, I can too, because I'm just a normal guy.
Right.
And they need to see that. And so I love going to talk to kids, and I've talked to many high school, middle school, elementary kids, whether it's my NASA hat on or my Navy uniform. And it's just amazing, even today, when you tell kids that they cannot do certain things, or they think they can't, and you tell them, no, you can. Their response is they always want to self-doubt themselves first. Well, no, right. You don't know me, Casey. I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. I got this problem, that thing. I said, same here. Welcome to the boat. So, you know what?
I'm driving the boat.
Yeah.
You can actually say that too.
Right. Is it hard? Absolutely. Do we need help? Absolutely. But if you're committed and you're willing to put the work in, you can absolutely achieve that, and no doubt about it. But we all need help in a path and a roadmap. So the kids piece, the passion, and then my second dot is my passion to work with the military. That's just who I am, and I love to work with those that have a higher purpose. And so I tried to connect those two dots: the kids, the passion, and then higher purpose. A grouping society that has that team vision, passion, focus, and the closest civilian counterparts to the military are athletes. And so when I connected all those dots, student athletes came to that aha moment, which then what eventually led me to create Athlete Foundry is this idea of giving families from across America, regardless of their zip code and background and resources and gender, a true level playing field. If they put the work in, how to help them go from 6th to 12th grade through a comprehensive roadmap that makes sure that they have a shot to be a collegiate athlete and being successful in life after sports. So being a productive citizen, but that journey starts early. Taking those small steps early is a vital piece to their journey. And ultimately, the passion is about holisticness, building a well-rounded child and student athlete so that they are better postured when they leave college. Because so often we hear kids that eventually get to college, and the fourth year of college, they're about to graduate, and what do they say? What do I do now? I didn't think about it. Right?
There's a lot of there's a lot of that, isn't there? Yeah.
So we're not necessarily saying that you have to perhaps precisely know. It'd be great if you do one, you know exactly what your heart's content is early on, but you should be thinking about, and you should be planting seeds and preparing for that moment. And therefore you can make decisions early that will then allow you to then off ramp when that time comes in a productive way, because you've already set the conditions. You've done those things. It doesn't, it can't flip a switch in the fourth year of college and go, I want to do X, Y, Z. I had a one more story, and I'll be quiet. Let you get to the next.
No,
question.
I like this.
I had a call with a Oregon State University, well known, the Ducks, Oregon University, right? So D1, good stuff. Great player, and someone from their student athlete advising team reached out to me on LinkedIn, said, "Hey, we got this great player who's about to graduate. Love to talk about space and NASA." And and I was connected, and we all get blasted on LinkedIn a lot. So we don't know if they're real bots or not. Yeah, but I don't often tend to communicate back. I just out of efficiency, and so I thought, well, this is pretty legit. So let me go ahead and reach out to him. So we set up a call, and blows my mind away. This was 2020, last year, 2022. So you think, oh, this is not something from 20 years ago. This is coming from the counselor, well-intentioned, of course. This person's job is to help their student athletes. And I'm asking this student athlete, again, about to graduate, and say, he wants to be an astronaut. Okay, wow, Good. Tell me what you did prior to this vision to help plant the seed. First of all, what's your major? Well, I majored in it was some non-science degree. Okay, so that's
not a good thing.
Not a good thing for NASA, at least, right? Now,
Right.
you want to be a commercial, which now we have those paths, so good for them. Blue Origin, SpaceX, etc. So there's other paths for non-scientists. That's a good thing. But for NASA, a non-starter. Did you not think about that? Yeah, no one told me that. Right, there we go with the common statements again. No one told me to think about that. All right, well, that's fine. And I said, well, why did you major in that? And this is something I've heard way too often. It breaks my heart, which is, well, we were kind of hinted by the coaching staff that if we really wanted to play, it was easier, right? That's I don't want to use profanity on your podcast, but
no, use it, please, because that made me pissed off. I've just heard that before.
So guess what? The coach wins.
Yep.
Child's future is done. You just sacrificed that child's future for your $400,000 paycheck, or $500,000 or more, right? This is insane. It just blows my fucking mind away.
Oh yeah.
It just upsets me to not think about that. So it frustrates me. And so, okay, okay. So next question. All right, fine. Did you do anything else in the years prior? Did you participate in some side club, some event, something science related? Did you think about these? And the answer is no, 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 no. Wow. All right. Well, we're starting really at scratch here. I'm not, there's always a path forward. I'm never a disbeliever that there's never a path. There's always a path forward. It's just how much pain and work are you willing to put into it.
Right.
So
if you haven't put the pain in yet,
right, it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. And so I gave him some suggestions and thoughts to think through it. And one of those, unfortunately, is a common one that I share, which is when you come to that fourth year and you have this epiphany moment of what do I do now? I don't really like the major I was in. One of those courses of action is cycle back through and major again in a major that you're interested in, and this time go through it again. And does anyone want to do that? No. No one wants to go, exactly. Well, I'm sorry, but that's the option you got. You either can do that or you can forget this dream. The choice is yours. But there's a path forward. So that just frustrates me. And the reason is just like in military, right? We don't think of a major operation the day before and go, let's think about this big thing.
Has anybody planned this incursion?
Right.
No,
Has
I don't even know where we're going.
No, we've been eating at Taco Bell all day. Yeah. And, we just thought, so planning. And so what we've done, we've embedded the military concept of planning into the platform. And so as long as we've unpacked it into bite-sized, actionable, semester by semester steps that the family, the parent, and the student athlete can together take to ensure that their child doesn't miss an important step in their future. And so we don't replace the coach or the counselor. That's all there, part of the success team. But we put it all together. And the analogy is sort of we're the mission control for the family. It puts athletics and academics into one unified spot.
That's huge. I mean, you think about preparing kids for the future, and make sure you go to athletefoundry.com, because that's a huge advantage for any kids. I mean, any kids of any, age, race, gender, economic background. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing to be able to give people, in essence, a roadmap for their journey in life. How valuable do you see it to be as your legacy, to be able to help, the next generation be able to, in essence, I want to equate it to what you did for the shuttles, is be able to have their own escape system in place to be able to get out of bad situations and still find that success. What does that mean to your legacy?
Huge. I now I don't know if you're a believer in this, but I do believe that while we have destiny is our own of choosing, it is in our control, there's still a portion of connectedness, that the universe
Right.
has some purpose to it, and that and I look back and realize I'm not surprised now that this is my jam, my thing, because if I go back to my early childhood, it's always about helping people, and the struggles that I went through and the discriminations and so forth, that people put roadblocks in front of me. I didn't have a roadmap. No one told me it was possible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jesus, I don't want anyone to go through that. Now they have to put the work in, but there's a path. And just like you said, I love the term off ramp. So whether you are, imagine you're the number one player, and that's awesome. Guess what? Life could throw a wrench at you. Injury can happen. In 11th grade, and all of a sudden you were the top player. Now you're not. Does that mean that the path is over? Hell no. Absolutely. There are over 1,900 universities with an athletic program across America between Division I to JC. There's a path for you somewhere. So option building, right? That's another military thing, is we don't like to be boxed in. We like options. So we love to present options to our bosses. So why shouldn't families? We should present options to our child, build options across those so that you can choose what is best for you when that time comes. So whether you decide to go on to college, let's say maybe as a non-athlete, or you off-ramp into society, or you off-ramp into military, we believe that our roadmap, while designed for that student-athlete in the college, because it's holistic, it actually will benefit no matter what your decision ends up being in terms of off-ramp.
That's huge. That's huge. I love it. This has been an amazing conversation. I actually was taking notes, so I don't know if you knew that.
Awesome.
I love it. And thank you for being that light of telling your story, being that positivity, so that, future generations and also adults like myself can kind of look at it and go, yeah, there is that out. There is that exit, amazing. Make sure you go to athletefoundry.com. Casey, it's been so amazing having you on. I do have 3 questions for you. I always end the same way. So you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Oh, all right. So if you could go back to your 18-year-old self and ask and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
That would be to grow or appreciate the emotional intelligence aspect of being a good human. And nice. I wish, it's not that I ignored it, I didn't know enough about it, and I wish I would build that portion of my brain and my human my human side, if you will, I guess, that emotional EQ part of me. I'd love to focus on that along with my IQ side.
I love it. All right. So now here's a good one. I'm waiting for this one. So if you could give people, a lot of people are going through challenges and struggles, and it's really all their own. I mean, it's one of those things where, everybody has their own unique path. If you could give them 2 habits to incorporate into their life to continue to move forward daily, what would those 2 habits be?
Wow. That's, so I'll give you the 2 that come to my mind. One is sort of the visionary piece. One is the near-term tactical. Okay. I believe you need both, in my humble opinion. And that first visionary one is you have to have a why. If you don't have a why, you need to find a why. And we all have whys, right? We all have the skills. There's a purpose that we're put on this earth. Find that why for you, because that becomes your anchor. Everything you do is surrounded by that one higher purpose, whatever that might be. So find that why. And then the tactical piece is, I love it, and this is from other books that I've read, and it's powerful, is the micro habits. Small things, even if it's just one thing in your daily routine. In the military, we call it the battle rhythm. What's your daily routine? One thing you could do, just one. Maybe it's preparing coffee for your bride, or making your bed, whatever that one thing is, right? Then you add to the second and third. It's that one. Be consistent about that, no matter what. Be consistent. And through those micro habits will come a change.
Oh, I love those. See, I knew I was excited for a reason. All right, this last one's going to be fun. So if you could have coffee at a firehouse table with 3 individuals, they could be deceased or alive, and at a firehouse table, any question is asked and it needs to be answered. Who would those 3 people be and why?
Ooh. Wow. That's amazing. That's a fantastic question, Rob. I'm going to use that again I'm going to put that in my toolkit.
I like it. It gives insight. That's for sure.
It does. 3 people. Well, there's so many. There's so many. So one would for sure be, it could be my mom, dad, and my in-laws as well. But I'm going to pick my dad for now.
Okay. Yeah.
So he'll represent that generation.
Love it.
That because of the struggles that he has gone through, and by the way, a U.S. Army veteran, enlisted veteran himself as an immigrant.
That's so awesome.
And that was the path of us getting here was that choice he made. So my father. The second would be.
It's not easy because there's so many that you want to have those questions to.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, would be MLK.
Oh, good. That's a good choice.
Yeah, MLK would be great. I want to, have such a diverse 3 that presents a unique conversation. So my dad, MLK, and I'll for the time being I'll say my bride. I
love it.
And the reason her is because I have 3 kids, 2 daughters, 1 son, and I'm a feminist by trade. Is that we have so much more work to lift and inspire and help females from an equity perspective, and the struggles she has gone through in her own right as gender discrimination on so many regards and places. She represents that female side that we as men have to listen to. I'll tell you this, my view of this is whenever I write, I use the generic pronouns of she and her.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because thousands and thousands of years we have used he and his.
Yeah.
So now let's just flip the table for a minute. Let's say I refer to in conversations in front of you and other men. I said the generic he, instead of dude, dudette.
Yeah.
How do you think men would feel if I just blab that out, saying her, she, and I meant it in a generic sense, just like
in a generic, like everybody else does with the male, right?
I can assure you that the majority, if not all, would be offended.
That'd be interesting.
Hey, why are you saying I'm a her? I didn't say you're a her. I'm just using her as a generic term, like we've used his for thousands of years. We've dominated the world, men, for thousands of years. It's okay to give a seat at the table for them. It's okay. Relax. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to get the same paycheck at the end of the day. It's okay. Right.
That is interesting. I never even thought about it that way. It's such a simple change, but yet a huge implications of understanding.
People catch it. I've had multiple comments, and I've written blogs, and then I've used the her and his, and I've gotten, everyone has said, hey, Casey, why are you using that? Or, hey, I noticed that. And I said, yeah, it's intentional. Yeah, exactly.
It's good that you noticed that because that was on purpose.
That's right. So it is my duty to continue to be that advocate, strong advocate for all females in the world, and particularly starting with my family.
I love it. Casey, you keep changing the world the way you are and making people's lives better. I appreciate it. Make sure you go to athletefoundry.com to find out more. Casey, thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time and what you do as well. Thank you for your service.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.